Hi, and welcome to the Furman Transformation Podcast. Thanks for being here, guys. We've got a very exciting, very interesting, very cool topic set up for you guys today. And it's something that is very close to me, and I have learned firsthand a lot about. So I'm really excited to bring it to you and to hopefully shed some light on how to really make team building, how to make teams much more effective in working together. And this really goes for sales as well as the operational, and also how those two mesh with each other. Essentially, what we're going to be talking about is emotional states. Now, this is something that maybe a lot of people don't, or average people don't think about a whole lot. It's one of those things where most people equate it to feelings, right? Emotional state is a feeling. Oh, maybe he made me feel this way or she made me feel this way. Well, when you really look at it, um, you back up for a second. You, as a person, are completely in charge of the emotional states that you choose to feel. Nobody can make you feel a certain way. And that is the first step, I believe, in taking control of your emotional states and realizing that concept. Now, there are many, many states that exist. There are many types of emotional states anybody can fall into. And most people don't consciously think about this because it's a wiring of our brain. But there are many states. Some are good, a lot more are negative. You know, we typically, especially when we're in very high stress, high tension environments, usually in the workplace, we tend to revert to negative states. And what happens is this tends to be contagious. So if I'm getting frustrated, my colleague by osmosis may be getting frustrated. Their colleague may be getting frustrated. This may lead to a higher level of frustration. It may lead to borderline anger. It could lead to anything, and I don't even want to go there because that's a negative state. So what I want to talk about here today is how to get into, first of all, as a manager, how to get yourself into positive states. And that's the first step. Which states to get into, which states are most conducive for the work environment, how to get into them yourself, how to trigger them yourself, how to touch others with those states. So essentially, bring others into those positive states with you. And then finally, how to show others how to get into those states themselves. Okay, so I know that was a lot right there. I want to start by breaking this out into sales versus operational. Because when we're talking about states, it's not just a matter of good and bad, because negative states can actually be positive if used correctly and used in the right way. But that's another conversation. What I want to really focus on today is sales and operational teams. And this is really for managers to look at their teams and see how they can essentially evoke this change. But to look at each one of these subsections and to evaluate the most productive, most effective states within those two categories. All right, so let's start with sales. So we talk about sales, we think about really, really good sales teams. What is it? What are the core drivers, the core denominators that make any team a successful sales team? What are the core states that make anybody a top producer? And this is really interesting because when you really look at it, it really comes down to the emotional state they're in. A lot of times, someone that you might call or label as a poor quality salesperson may not necessarily be a poor quality salesperson. It's just that they're in poor quality states. They may be in the state of depression. If they're in a state of depression, they probably shouldn't be in sales because they're making everybody else around them depressed. They're making the prospects depressed, and they're probably making the clients depressed. So you don't want that. You could, number one, first try to see if you can pull them out of it. That's number one. Something like that, something like, a constant state of laziness, lethargic. You can feel that on somebody if they have that state. That's not a good state either, especially not for sales. Or maybe jealousy or envy. That's not a good state either. You want positive states. So the question you ask yourself is, what are the best states for sales? And from what I've seen, from what I've learned, and from what I've done myself, I find there to be four really very, very high quality emotional states that you can put, first of all, put yourself in, show how to get touch others with, and then show how others how to get into, that will really, really ignite your team in a way that you may have not seen before. So I want to get right into that. So let's talk about the first one. The first state that I want to address is the state of curiosity. Okay. Now, if you look at all the most successful people in the world, I don't care who you're talking about, whether it's Albert Einstein or Elon Musk or any of these, Bill Gates, any of these really smart intellectual people. It's not always necessarily that they have the highest IQ. They're just very, very curious, and they stay that way, and that's what separates them from the rest of the world. Because most people learn at a young age that being in a state of curiosity, typically results in some kind of a punishment or some kind of pain. Because when you're a kid, you ask a lot of questions. Why is the sky blue? What is the moon? And essentially, a typical parent would try to push away from that. So essentially, curiosity is one of those states where as an adult you can reignite in yourself. And what the beauty of emotional states is that the mind creates the brain, and the brain creates the mind. So the more you put yourself into these states, the more your brain will actually rewire itself to be in these states, and it'll make it easier to be in these states. And if that was over your head, don't worry about that. This is not a science talk, but it's just a little fact. So you know that the more you do these exercises, the easier it's going to become to do them. So curiosity. Curiosity is one of the best states to be in. Almost all successful people, very successful people, have this to some extent. How do we get into or ignite curiosity? Okay. Well, first of all, why is curiosity important in sales? Well, if you think about it, one of the most important qualities in sales is you've got to be curious about your prospect. You've got to be interested in learning about the company, about what they're doing, and to see, if there's a way that you can help them. And that is genuine curiosity at its finest. You want to be truly curious about them and about how you can help, and always curious about how you can make their programs better. That's what makes a great salesperson, is the consultation aspect of it. So how do we get into this state? How can we trigger this state within ourselves? Well, I think the first way is to think about what are the things that we do when we're curious. We think, right? That's interesting, right? So if you can imagine taking a situation, any situation, right? Maybe there was a minor hiccup, right? Something went not necessarily horribly wrong at the campaign, but there was a minor hiccup. And your normal response would be to maybe panic or get frustrated at someone. Instead of doing that, take a step back for a moment and think from the perspective of, that's interesting. But what you're really doing is you're training yourself to look at the situation and say, what exactly happened there? Because in a positive way, you want to find out from a curious standpoint what went wrong so that you can fix it and make sure it doesn't happen next time. And that's a positive way to look at it. So anything that happens, any stimuli, whether it's good or bad, the habit of asking yourself, just say those two words, that's interesting. 3 words, that's interesting. And what that'll do is it'll actually train you to become curious and to think about it from a curious standpoint. And then you'll start to then ask yourself questions. Well, what if I would have done this? Well, what if I did it like that? What if I did this way? These are the types of questions, when you start asking yourself these questions, that make the people around you, bring them to the next level, right? Your prospects, your clients, your colleagues. Be always in a state of curiosity. Always, when in question, if you feel a negative emotion coming on, if you feel something that's not going to be conducive to you being successful, put yourself in that curiosity state. Put yourself in that positive state, and curiosity is always a very great one you can go into. Okay, so that's number one. Curiosity is great. Okay, the next one, as a successful sales team, you want to really have as a tool on the table. I like to think of it as is determination. Okay, the best, not only salespeople, the best athletes, the best competitors, the best of the best in the world, they all have an amazing amount of determination. You look at any of them, okay? You look at the greatest. Look at Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan. I don't care who you're talking about. You look at the best of the best, the greatest of all time, and they have an impeccable sense of determination that they will not stop no matter what. Okay? And as Rocky would say, that's how winning is done. Okay? That is how winning is done. So determination, how do you get yourself into determination? Well, I think, to get yourself into determination, you really have to find it from within. Because determination stems from a desire for something, right? You're determined to get something or to do something or to create something or to make something happen. So I think for determination, you really have to look inside yourself and find a cause. If you don't have a cause, if you don't have something you're fighting for every day, why are you still here? Why are you here? What are you doing? Because in my book, that's a wasted life. What are you passionate about? That's determination. And so I think to find determination within yourself, to enter into it within yourself, and to figure out how to start getting into it more, you've got to find the things that you're fighting for. Think about the things that are important to you. Is it your family? Is it your career? Is it is there something that you've always wanted in your life? Is it something? Is it a partner that you want? What is it that drives you at the core level? What is it that ignites that fire in you, that passion in you? And then think about that when you're on the phone, and use that to get fired up. And pretty soon, it's not just about that you're thinking about. You're actually getting excited about being on the phone. And that's the beauty of determination. That's the beauty of any of these emotions. It doesn't have to relate just to that circumstance. You use the right triggers to get yourself into this state. And once you're in it, you're in the state, and you can see things through that lens, and it'll be a different lens. But determination, when you see a sales floor filled with determined salespeople, it is an amazing sight. And let me tell you, they will stop at nothing, because they're not determined because they're being pushed. They're determined because it comes from the inside. They're determined because they have a fire within them that they know they're going to go all the way, and they are not stopping. And that's determination, and you want to get into that often. If you can get into that, you touch others with that again, you're going to start to show others how to get into that themselves. Okay, so it's curiosity, it's determination. What's another positive emotional state in sales? Okay, now this is possibly the most important, the best, and here it is. Okay, I would say probably the most important state for a sales team, for any salesperson to learn how to get into, is the state of certainty. Okay, what is certainty? Well, certainty is pretty much what it sounds like. Certainty is being certain of whatever you're talking about, having an ultimate conviction in the things you say, in the words you say, and what you mean and what you do. Right? For me, that's easy. because I know what I'm saying I believe in. Okay? But how do you get yourself into certainty if you're not used to being into it? How do you do that? Well, I think you need to start with the things that you are certain about in your life. You start to, just like you looked at determination, things that you're determined about, you need to think about the things that you're certain about. What are you certain about? What are the constants in your life? What are the things that you know are there for you? What are the people that you know are there for you? What are the constant stimuli that you have that you know, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, will always be there? And that's what makes you certain, right? And pretty soon, you have conviction in everything you say because you know that what you're saying you mean. And it's funny because the determination will also lead you into the certainty. And the more determined you are, the more fired up you're getting, the more fired up your team's getting, the easier it's going to be to transform into a certain state. Because you're determined, and now you know. And now you know. Just like that. Ultimate conviction. Okay? What are some of the words you use when you're in a state of certainty? 100%, 110%. He's going to go above and beyond all the way, 500%. Get it done. Get it done. Get the job done. That's certainty. Ultimate conviction in what you're saying. Beautiful state for a salesperson. For a team, forget about it. All right? Now, the final state in sales that I want to mention, and you might not think of this one right off the bat, but the final state in sales, and this is very, very important, is going to be empathy. And this is hugely important. And not sympathy, empathy. Very, very different. Okay? Empathy, I don't like the word sympathy. Empathy is a beautiful, beautiful state. Okay? Now, why is empathy? First of all, what is empathy? Empathy is being sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions and emotional states. Now, I didn't say being a pushover. I said being sensitive. Hey, that's a big difference too. So being empathetic is very important in sales because your typical sales team, and when you talk about sales meeting operations, typically, if you're in any organization, I don't care what product or service you're moving, there's typically a clash. And you know that. There's a clash between sales and operations because sales, they're bringing in the money and they've got usually a big head about themselves and they want to get it in and they have to have a little bit of that bordering cockiness, bordering arrogance, but that's a line and that's something you've got to be careful of. And there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance, and I think that's important. But a lot of times you can go that way, it can lead to disaster. So, because, you may run into a sales team where they're making demands, and then you've got, and they're pushing the operations too hard, and then you've got a clash, and then you've got problems, and then you've got all kinds of problems you don't want to deal with, right? So, empathy. If you can really instill empathy into your sales team, you can empower them to find ways to get what they want done, but in doing so empathetically with their colleagues and their counterparts. And that is the most beautiful way to get things done. When people actually want to cooperate because they want to, not because they have to. Okay, and that's what empathy does. It allows two parties to see something, even though they may be in different areas, to see each other's sides and to want to help each other. Because that's what a true team does. All right. So that's it. So that's sales. And I think those are the most important qualities in sales. The most important emotional states in sales. You want to get yourself into them. You want to touch others with them. And then you want to show others how to get into them. So practice that. You want to really practice that. Those are your four. It's curiosity, it's determination, it's certainty, and it's empathy. Now, there may be more. There may be others you can get into. But from my experience, from what I've seen, what I've done, and what I've been successful with, these are the four. Okay? That's sales. Now, likewise, you have a set of states that are very, very important for operational teams as well. So if you're, that would say if you're a sales manager, if you're an operational manager, or COO or something along that nature, you want to have certain states instilled in you and also instilled in your team that they can, number one, that you can trigger, that you can touch them with, and then that you can also show them how to get into. Okay? And there are four that I want to highlight here. Okay? It's curiosity, it's determination, which is the first of the same two. Now here's the third, it's going to be different, focus. Now focus is important in sales too, but I'd say really very important in operations. If you're on operations, you don't understand this, especially if you're high in operations. Focus, and then also empathy, which is a carryover from sales. Okay. Now the way that these states operate is a little different, right? So, but still you're in the same states. Okay. And when people are in the same states, oftentimes they relate to each other much better. Okay. So operational, let's talk about curiosity, right? So, let's imagine, you're in a state, again, something's going wrong, okay? So you want to take a step back. You want to get yourself into a curious state and think positively about how you can remedy the situation from a curious standpoint, right? Or even better than that, always proactively be figuring out how you can prevent bad situations from occurring. And that's the best. And when you can do that, when you're always curious about how you can have the best operation, how you can streamline things better, how you can make it more efficient, well, that's you're gonna be loved by everybody. You're gonna be promoted all over the place. So you want to be curious about every aspect and every process and everything that you do. And again, you get into that state the same way. You think, I wonder how that works, or what would happen if I do this? Or something happens, you get a stimuli, something negative. That's interesting. You say this to yourself. You don't have to say this out loud. You say this to yourself, and you get yourself into the habit of feeling this emotion. And what will happen again is you start to get yourself into the state pretty soon, because your brain is plastic, meaning your brain rewires itself all the time. The states that you're in, you're going to be in more and more and more. So if you keep training yourself to be in the state of curiosity, pretty soon you're going to be going automatically into the state of curiosity. And that's really when you get good and when things start to happen really well for you. So you want to get into the state of curiosity, just like in sales. Determination, also very, very important. Okay, the cream rises to the top. The best people in operations are the most determined. Not to step on anybody to get to where they want, but they are very, very, that's not a good quality, because you got to be empathetic, and we'll get to that as well. But determined, you got to be determined to rise to the top and to invoke change. You've got to be, that's a good one. You got to be determined to invoke change, right? And to make things better, you got to be determined. You can't, go with the flow is a nice thing, but you're not going to get anywhere just going with the flow. You got to be determined. You got to be determined more than that. Okay. So determination. Now here's the different one that wasn't mentioned in sales, and this is specifically for operations. I think is very, 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 very important. Is focus. Okay. Focus, perhaps one of the most important in operations. I don't care what kind of operation you're doing. You're in operations. You have to have impeccable focus. And if you're in operations, you know what I'm talking about. Attention to detail, right? Because there are so many numbers and words and things that can get mixed around and potential things that can go awry, that the best managers, the best people, the best colleagues within any operational department have ultimately very, very good focus. Meaning they focus in, don't get distracted by conversations. And of course, everybody makes small talk here and there, and you have times to do that, maybe before and after lunch or whatever it is, maybe at the end of the day. But when you're in your zone and your people are working, it's working hours, you want to have unbelievable focus. Okay? Now, how do you do that? Well, again, you look into yourself and you think about, when do I feel the most focused? What things do I do that give me incredible focus? And that's different than determination, similar but very different. It's more of a focus, a tunnel vision on something. a tunnel vision where you are just impervious to distractions and you've got literally 110% of your brain focused in on whatever task is at hand and nothing can sway you. Okay, you get a team of guys and operations that are that focused, that is a great thing. Let me tell you. All right. Now, the final thing in operations, just like you had in sales, is going to be empathy. Right. And for me, this was probably the hardest thing when I was coming up through an ad agency and I was in production department for the first time, starting at the bottom. It was hard for me to be empathetic when I had people, if I had people coming at me, in all kinds of ways. And I think that was one of the hardest learning curves for me, was to realize that being empathetic, even when you're being, people are coming at you, is important. Because of human nature, people are not going to be malicious. People don't ever have an intention. Most normal people don't have intentions of being malicious. People want to be good people, generally speaking. And so it's important when something goes awry to be empathetic to that and to, to realize what happened and assume responsibility, where it happened and empathize and there's nothing wrong with apologizing and then moving forward. There's nothing wrong with that. And then getting back to a very focused, very determined, very curious state in your operational department. Okay? So being empathetic to everything that's going on. And yes, operational is more a reactive empathy, whereas sales is more of a proactive empathy, but there's still empathy. All right. So I think that about covers, the states I wanted to discuss today. It goes much deeper than that. But these are some tools that, you don't hear very often in management or in sales or in operations. But if you can actually start to implement these, and first of all, if you understand them, you can get yourself into these states, and you understand what that means. You can touch other people with it, and then you can actually show other people how to get into them. The sky is the limit. I mean, the things that you can do with your teams are unbelievable, because being in these states allows for tremendous, tremendous potential of success. Being in the bad ones, the negative ones, definitely doesn't. So being in these are like I said, from what I've seen, what I've done myself and with other people, these are the ones that I found to be the most successful. If you can get into them, you're going to be very, very happy, and it's going to open the door for a lot of potential. All right, so that about wraps up today what I wanted to discuss, the emotional states most conducive for productive teams. We've discussed sales as well as operational and how they coincide with each other. Thanks so much for listening. Again, this has been a Furman Transformation podcast with me, your host, Jonathan Furman. Thanks for listening in. Again, we are a growth agency. We deal mainly with growth stage tech companies. We're doing a lot of exciting things in the ways of working with IoT, AI, blockchain developments, all kinds of cool things in the tech industry. If you are in this industry, you have an app, or you're doing something, in San Fran, or maybe you're not even in San Fran, but you've got a tech startup and you want to get on the map. You want to get on the map. You've got your geniuses, because you're smart, I'm sure, and you've coded an amazing app, which I couldn't do myself. But you need to get on the map, and you need that biz dev. That's what I do. I am your business development guy. I can work with your sales engine. I can be your sales engine. I can be your marketing engine, your PR engine, anything that your solutional consultant, anything that you need to grow and really put yourself on the map and take yourself to that next level. That's what I do. That's what we do here. We're very good at it. We have free consultations, so anything that you need, any questions, even if you haven't done business, call me up. You give me a call. say, hey, John, I got a couple questions for you, and that's fine because I want to learn about you. Again, I'm curious about you. I'm curious about your company because that's the state that I'm in very, very often. I want to learn about you. I want to learn what you're doing. I want to see if I can help, number one. Number two, and if I can help, I want to find a solution. And I'm determined to find a solution to help you. And so, again, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. You got any questions? You'd like to reach out, give me a call, 561-571-0638. Until next time, thanks so much. Bye.